Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to walk you through how you can use AutoHotkey to run a command prompt command that allows you to create or schedule a task to run in advance in future. If you're interested in this topic, please continue watching. Okay, welcome back. So in a previous tutorial, I have showed you how you can use the Task Scheduler app in order to schedule in advance an AutoHotkey script or any other programs to launch. And you do that by hitting this Create Basic Task button. But I'm not going to show you that today. You can go and watch that tutorial video if you're interested in learning how to do that. But today, what I'm going to show you is that you can use the command line command to do the same. So you can create a task, schedule a task to run in advance using the command prompt. And the way you do that is by doing this, running this command called sch tasks, schedule tasks. And when you hit enter with just this command, what you're going to get is the list of all the scheduled tasks that are supposed to run. Now, if you want the help file to show up in here, what you can do is you can follow that by a slash and a question mark, and you will see a whole lot of useful information that shows up, and it's going to tell you some description and the parameter lists and the examples of how you can run these parameters, or you can run this command with parameters. Now I'm going to go ahead and go create and then go slash question mark to find out what I can do with the create parameter. And there's a whole bunch of information that you can get in here. So these are the parameters that go into the create parameter. And also there are some examples that you can look at and follow if you get stuck. Now, there's also a website which you can visit to find out more about this schedule task command, which is right here. You see this URL, that's where you go, and if you go to that URL, it will explain to you in more detail and in a more organized way what you can do with this task command within command prompt. Now, so instead of using the command prompt, I'm going to use an AutoHotkey script to call that command prompt. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a my command line variable to store my command that is going to go into the command prompt. And like I said, you use the sch tasks command and then pass the parameter such as to create. I'm going to go ahead and create a task, and sc, which means scheduling or schedule, and if you type out once, then that means you're creating it to run once only. And st stands for start time, and right now it's 11:42 a.m. in the morning, and I can then spell out, say for example 11:43 a.m. and then tn, which represents the task name, and I'm going to just call it my task, and tr notepad, which means I'm going to run the notepad, and I'm gonna run the command prompt and /k because I want to see what my command prompt is gonna tell me when I run this. So if I go ahead and run this, my command prompt shows up, and then it will say that my scheduled task, my task has successfully been created. Now, if I go to my task scheduler, that task should have been created right here. Okay, so my task is right there, and that is going to launch the notepad like that. So okay, there you go. So my notepad has launched 1 minute after that I have created the task. So I'm going to get out of that and get out of that, and that's how you create a simple task to run once in the future. And I'm going to show you a whole lot other examples, which I'm going to bring over like that. And so the first one is the one that I've shown you just now. If you want to run other programs by providing the full path to it, what you can do is you can follow what you see on the screen now. And I'm missing a quotation mark. So the best and the safest way is to wrap these in quotation marks, the names of the task and the path to the file. And if the path to the file has a space like that, then you have to wrap that with apostrophes or single quote. Now this should work, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this. And the last line here you see is to open up the task scheduler. So if I run this, it will create the task and open up the scheduler. Now, you may have noticed that, okay, so it says the task name my task already exists. Do I want to replace it? I have to go Y and then press enter to overwrite the existing task. And if you don't want that, if you want to automatically just override that, then what you can do is when you run the command prompt, you can go ahead and create a variable for which you're going to store the process ID of the command prompt. And then you go wait, AutoHotkey PID, and my PID. Now, that waits for the command prompt to exist, and then what you're going to do is you can do control send and send the Y letter and then the enter followed by that, and you're going to send it to AutoHotkey PID, my PID. Now in this manner, what's going to happen is it's going to pass these keys, so it's going to override the command prompt's prompt and then open up the task scheduler. So I have my task here, and then if you look at the command prompt result, which you can make it go away and not show up if you don't want to see it by changing this to C, but if you keep it at K, then you're gonna see the log of within the command prompt, and you can see that it's successfully overridden the existing task, and this existing task will launch Google Chrome. And so if I run this, I will see Google Chrome launching in another monitor. And then let me just comment that out. And you can also run this by using this command line, and I can do that by say uncommenting this out and hit run, and I'll see, okay, maybe I should. So it says the scheduled task, my task, has been attempted to run, and I see the Google Chrome window that has opened up in another monitor. And let me just comment this out because it keeps opening the task scheduler. So that's how you can run the task from the command prompt from AutoHotkey. And the query bit is, and I can also remove this and these two. The query bit is to check whether the task that you have provided the name for exists within the list of all the running tasks, and you can see that that my task does exist, and so you got a result like that. And then you got the status that says ready, which you can change at next runtime, which you can change by running these commands. And this one disables the task, so you will see the parameter of scheduled task, my task has been changed. And then if I go back to the query and check out the status again, it will say it's disabled. You want to re-enable it, then you use the enable parameter. And then if I go back to the query, it will say the status is ready again. Now this one is, I think, when you have a task that runs for a period of time. I don't have an example, so I can't show you. I think this is the command that you use to stop that from running. Now if you want to check whether tasks exists before going ahead and trying to delete that, what you can do is you can run this example right here, and what this will do is actually I can narrow down the query to my task only. What this will do is it will run command prompt without showing the result in the command prompt, and it's going to run a query for the task name my task, which, do I have it? Yes, I do have it. Which is going to be exported into the temporary files folder. And let me just show you where that gets saved. A temp and return here. And if I bring up my folder, so in my clipboard has the path to the temporary folder, and now you see the task list has been extracted, and then you can see my task is right there because my task exists. And in order to check whether the task actually exists within the AutoHotkey script, what you can do is you can read this file and then do an in-string, use the in-string function to determine whether the task exists, right? And then if this is true, then you're going to go ahead and delete the task, and you're using the winwait command and the control send command to confirm the deletion of the task. So if I go ahead and run this, it will delete the task. It will also delete the text file that the export has been produced to. And then if I go to my task scheduler, you will successfully see that the my task has been deleted. But this is not mandatory. You can just make it silently fail if my task scheduler doesn't have the task scheduled, and you just do that by using these 3 lines. Now, if you accidentally create a task with no names in it, like this one here, so within my task name, there's nothing, just 2 quotation marks. If I run this, it will still say my task has been successfully created. And if you go to your task scheduler, what you will see is actually there is a name given to that task, and this is the one. And you get a random string of letters and numbers like that, hyphenated, and that's the task that gets created when you create a task without any names. Now I'm going to go into more advanced part of the schedule task commands, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a variable called task name, and I'll give it my task. And also, if you want to use, say for example, you want to use the current date and time at the time of running the script to be part of the task name, what you can do is you can use these variables. Now I've got year, month, date saved into the current date variable, and then current time variable to store a hour and a minute and a second. And then I'm gonna comment this one out and create a new variable. So it's the same variable, and I'm gonna call it my task. And I'll put an underscore between each of these variables because I can use a space, I think, but I try not to use spaces when I do these things, because spaces can create problems when you try to refer to that. So by doing this, and let me go back and create the command line variable, and I'm gonna put a task name as a variable in here. Now I don't think you need the quotation mark here, but it doesn't hurt to have it, right? So if you want to be safe, put the quotation mark in there. But let me go ahead and try it without the quotation mark. So if I run this, I should see that task being created. Schedule. Okay, so here we go. The schedule task blah 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 with the current date and time has been successfully created. So if I go to my task scheduler, I'll be able to see that. And let me just delete that. That's rubbish. My task, here we go. So my task with this name has been created. But just be mindful that you need to store that string of name somewhere, otherwise you won't be able to deal with that. Because the way the command works is you have to provide the right task name to be able to play with it. Now, if you want to pass arguments to the program that you're going to run with a task that you want to create, what you can do is let me just erase all of this, create a new task by going schedule task, create, and SC, which stands for schedule, and you can also make it weekly. If you do weekly, then another parameter that you can provide is /d, and using this you can specify, for example, you just want it run for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and with the start time of 21:49, for example, that's 9:49 p.m. at night, and go task name, and I'm gonna give the task name of this variable. Now this time I'll just wrap it in quotation marks, but it shouldn't really matter. And the task that I'm gonna run is, I've got the path to the Chrome. That's the path. Now notice how there's a single quote, and that's required because you have a space in the path of the executable file. And I'll wrap this again in quotation marks, and because there is a quotation mark here, I need to put in another quotation mark, right? And then what I want to do is I want to say pass incognito to run this in incognito mode. So this is one argument that I'm providing, and then another argument I can provide is website addresses, so sydneymorningherald.com and etc. So if I go ahead and run this, what should happen is that it creates a task called my task, which I can go and check out in my task scheduler. So my task should be there. There we go. There you go. So Monday, Wednesday. So trigger is Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the time that I have specified, and the action is going to run is it's going to run this Chrome with these additional arguments that I have provided. So if I go ahead and run this, I should get the incognito mode Chrome launching to navigate to these two websites. All right, let me just delete that. Okay, so if you want to run an AutoHotkey script, you can use this method, the same method. So you pass the path to the AutoHotkey executable and pass the arguments that points to your AutoHotkey script. So an easy way to do that is using this example. I've got the task name as my task, and then this is the path to my script. And let's see what's in there. Nothing. I'm going to call it make message box hi. Okay, so, and then you have the my command line, which schedule the task, create, and it does a monthly task recurrence on the day 14th day of each month. Start time is this, and task name is this. Task name my task, and then what you provide is the path to the AutoHotkey executable installed on your PC. That's that, and then you wrap it with the single quotation marks because chances are you're going to have a space in that path. And then my script, which also has a space in the path to it, so you wrap that in a single quotation mark as well, and then put another quotation mark here. So my task name starts from this part to the end, the highlighted part, and then the last quotation mark is to close this beginning quotation mark. So if I go ahead and run this, what is this? Oh, that is to run. Okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead and run it. It says the task has been successfully created. Now notice how this is a run wait command. So if I close out of that, it will run the next line of command, which is going to be to bring up the task scheduler like this. And then my task should be here somewhere. There we go. What did I do? Monthly on day 14. Okay, so on day 14 of January, February, blah, 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 blah. So every month it's going to run my AutoHotkey executable and pass my script path to my script as my argument. And so if I get out of this and try to run this and comment this one out, so this basically runs that task called my task. If I hit that, it's gonna bring up this command prompt, which I can make it go away actually. Hi. Yeah, so message box hi, right, in the test script 3. So this is the way you can schedule an AutoHotkey script to run in the future. And just the last thing before we go is an AutoHotkey script scheduler that I have created. I'm not going to go through into every single one of these lines of codes. You should be able to understand it because these are all just simple lines of codes that does input box and if statement and blah blah blah. Basically it gives you all these options for you to, for example, if I run it, you provide the path to the script, and then you give the task a name, and then you schedule the type. And depending on which one you put in here, so you can either put in any one of these ones. So if I put in, say, for example, weekly, and hit enter, the script is going to behave based on what schedule type that you have provided. So start time, I'll just put in now, and then now, and then end date, you have to provide the end date. And if you want to kind of make it run indefinitely, then maybe you can put in like a ridiculous end date, like 10 years later or whatever. And then there's going to be a modifier. You've seen this before. For weekly, you can provide the names of the days, and I'm just going to go ahead and run that. And the last line of code opens up the task scheduler, so I'll see my task that has been created here. Now, if the task already exists, it's also going to just immediately override that by using the control send command. And let me just show you another example. So same script path, same name, and then I'm going to go and create minutes. So minute without the S actually. Minute, go ahead and start date is today, start time is this, and then the end date is, I don't know, a year later. And mind you, you have to actually, I don't know why this is the case, you can't put an end time that is earlier than the previous time, even though the date is all further in the future than the start date. So if your start time is 12:01, then you have to provide at least 12:03 or something like that. You gotta go higher than that for whatever reason, I don't know. So I'm gonna provide this figure here, and then it's gonna ask you to put in the modifier. In case of minute and hourly schedule time, the modifier, what it does is it's going to extend the interval. So right now is 1, so 1 means every minute. If I put in 3, for example, it's going to run every 3 minutes. Okay, and the same goes for hourly as well. And I think daily, weekly, and other ones also have the same modifier built in. I can't remember, but here the task that I just created has a 3-minute interval, right? And let me just run, say for example for daily then. Oops, my bad. I'm gonna run this script, same task name, and run it for daily. And then start date, start time, end date, a year later. Okay, so here we go. Enter modifier. If I put in 3, for example, or 4, this is gonna run every 4 days. So if I go to my task, there we go. Trigger every 4 days at the hour and time that I have specified. And with the monthly one, you specify and date a year later. You've got the modifier to modify when you want to, indicate on which month you want to run this, as well as, for example, let me just wipe out February to November. Just put in January and December, and then you're gonna be asked to enter the day. So let me go 16th of each month, and the result you get is that at that time on day 16 of January and December, starting blah blah blah, you will run this task. Alright, I think that's it. All of this is going to be uploaded to my website, so if you want to access them, visit my website. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.